Okay, so welcome back to our first section. And as ever, I've got a little vote here to kickstart. So you're going back to your plus button now to cast your votes. This is a bit of a controversial one, which is, do you often cancel on a first date? So this is the time to own up to it. If you're someone who cancels regularly at the last minute, please vote now and say yes. Or if you're someone who always keeps your commitments, vote no. I bring up the cancelling thing because whilst it can feel really bad to cancel at the last minute, I understand also that sometimes if you're not feeling fully confident about going on the date, or you're feeling a bit of anxiety around it, sometimes it could just feel like the right thing to do. So if you often cancel on a first date, vote yes now using the plus button. And I get it, first dates can feel really daunting, and my job in this section is to help you overcome some of those challenges which may make you feel a bit stressed about dating, whether that's a challenge of you feeling nervous or the challenge of other people cancelling on you at the last minute and you feeling let down. So I've got 5 common dating problems in this section that we are going to troubleshoot together. So the first problem we're going to troubleshoot today is that you find first dates nerve-wracking. That you're definitely not here thinking, yes, Hayley, first dates the most fun ever. In fact, you find them a little bit terrifying. What do we do about it? Because, as I said, ultimately, if you feel more confident about going on your dates, you're also going to be less likely to cancel because they'll feel less overwhelming to you. So how do we get there? Well, it starts to begin with just a shift in mindset. Often when we feel a lot of anxiety around a date, it's because we are thinking that it's all on us really to impress and perform for the other person, and that they have all this power to either accept or reject us. Instead, you need to change your mindset of this and see yourself as more of the interviewer instead of the interviewee. So this means instead of going onto your dates thinking, oh my gosh, how do I get them to like me? You've got to think, what would I need to see from them to make me like them more? So go into those dates with a clear idea of what standards you have, what qualities you'd like to see in a person, how you'd expect someone to interact and behave with you, because this is all about encouraging you to get out of that mindset of feeling like you're the one that's being put on the spot and being judged. Another nice little practical tip you can do is when you first go on a date, if you are feeling like a bag of nerves, you can actually tell the other person that you're feeling nervous. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're like, Hayley, I cannot tell my date I'm feeling nervous. That's going to make me look really bad. And the truth is, it actually doesn't. Surprisingly enough, when you are candid with someone and you're okay to be vulnerable, it's actually quite a good way to demonstrate your self-esteem, that you're really comfortable within yourself. So again, when you're doing this disclosure, keep it lighthearted, keep it short. But if you're feeling really nervous, you could say, you know, the traffic wasn't so bad. I thought I was going to be late this evening. Or, you know what, you're super nice. You're already making me feel more relaxed. By disclosing in this way, often it helps you to stop getting stuck in your head and worrying, and instead allows you to connect better with the person on the date. So if you're feeling that first date's nerve-wracking, change your mindset. Remember what standards the other person has to bring to the table here. And secondly, consider disclosing to your date how you're feeling, just to get that thought out of your mind. So my second problem I'm addressing is you're not sure what expectations you should have of a first date. And in fact, this question is even going to be asked by one of our match users later on, which is, if you're not really feeling a massive spark, should you keep dating someone? And this can be quite tricky, because especially if you really would like to have a relationship and you've met someone who seems to fit the bill, but you're not quite feeling it. How do you handle that? Well, I think when it comes to the spark, that whole Walt Disney effect of birds singing in the trees, that might be too much of an unrealistic expectation for a first date. Particularly when we meet someone for the first time online, there's quite a lot of ice breaking we need to do. We don't automatically behave just like our normal selves. I also think our ability to experience a spark has a lot to do with our own state of mind. It's not all about whether it's the other person or not and what they're bringing to the table. My favourite anecdote around this is to say that I do remember when I was 16 and at school, I honestly used to feel the spark all the time. But I think as we become more mature, as we have different experiences, we perhaps experience the spark less often or in a slightly different way. So if you're not sure what you should be feeling on a first date, I would instead keep the bar a little bit lower, and I would think about it this way. I would think, I want to feel relaxed-ish on the date. Is communication between us easy? Am I finding them easy to chat to? Do I feel accepted by the other person? Do I think they're like quite nice? If you're getting those ticks in those boxes of finding the date is easy, that communication is straightforward, and you feel relatively relaxed and it's easy to get your point across, these are all good indicators of potential compatibility. So I'd say even if the birds aren't singing in the trees, if you've got those building blocks in place and the other person also seems very willing to get to know you and build that relationship, it could be well worth going on a second, third or fourth date. So now to a slightly trickier dating problem, but still one that I think will come up a lot, which is someone cancels at the last minute. Now this is annoying, isn't it? Because I know what it's like, especially in the run up to Christmas. Everyone is so busy, and if you've saved a night of your week to meet someone and they don't show up, or you get a last minute cancellation, it can feel quite stressful because maybe that was your one time you could have seen them, and it may also be confusing as how to handle it because you know you're quite attracted to them, you would like to meet, but also you want to show respect for your time. So there's two criteria I would look at when you're thinking about whether you should give someone a second chance if they've cancelled at the last minute. The first very important criteria is, have they offered you an alternative? Did they give you, when they said, oh, you know, I'm really sorry, I need to cancel, did they say, but could you do Tuesday or Wednesday next week? Did they give you like clear dates and times as alternatives? If they said something a bit fuzzier, like, oh, but maybe after I finish this project next week, I'll let you know, that's obviously not as good. So when people do cancel or reschedule, always look out for, have they given you a clear alternative or not? Secondly, when you're thinking about whether you should give someone another chance, think about, have they actually tried to acknowledge the impact that cancelling will have had on you? Have they said, oh, you know, just been such a stressful day? Or have they said, you know, I understand we've had this commitment in the diary for a while. You know, I know that like we're both really busy at the moment, so I'm really sorry that to have had to cancel. You're also really looking out for someone who understands the emotional reality of how you're engaging, and the fact that you've cancelled on them is going to be difficult for you too. So if they're empathetic and acknowledge that it's probably messed up your plans a bit, and if they give you a clear alternative, it's going to be a really good sign that you should give them that second chance. So I've just seen actually our survey results have come in, so I'm going to take a brief pause. So do you often cancel on a first date? 90% of you said no. Wow, so that's good. So I'm not talking to a virtual room of people that cancel. It sounds like you're all very committed to the process of dating, which is amazing. As I said, if you have been on the receiving end of some cancellations, though, hopefully this policy where you think, have they offered me a clear alternative? Have they acknowledged the impact this has had on me? Hopefully that will give you a bit of a game plan for how to handle it if someone cancels again on you. Another sort of similar problem to this is that they've never make a firm commitment. So, you know, this is kind of going back to Jan's question, isn't it? Where you're chatting to someone online, the chat is good, it's fun, but then every time you bring a date up, they like go quiet or slightly dodge the question, or they kind of give you a vague answer. So be a bit cautious if you sort of suggest a date to someone and they give you an answer which is something like, oh, you know, this is really busy month, but I'll let you know, maybe next month is better. Or I might have some free time on Tuesday afternoon, I'll message you later in the week. If their commitments to you are very fuzzy, or if they actually avoid the subject altogether, just change the topic every time meeting in person actually comes up, that should be a little amber flag to you. I've said this before and I will say it again. beyond everything else, beyond, a super career, beyond a certain height, beyond a hair color, beyond thinking someone's kind or awesome or fun, the most important criteria you actually need to build a relationship with someone else is willingness. You need them to be willing to show up, that they're going to put the effort in, or just as much effort as you are, to making this happen. So if they are unable to make a firm commitment, and you just can't even get in front of them to have that FaceTime where you're going to start to build a genuine connection, then it's kind of a non-starter. So part of successful dating is knowing when to sort of ask somebody out and go for the date. And then part of it is also thinking about how you can maintain your own motivation levels by not pursuing someone who is just simply not open to the same things as you. So if someone isn't able to make a firm commitment, read the writing on the wall and take your time and energy elsewhere and focus it on someone who is more aligned with you in terms of what they want. So the final problem is, and this is also related to meeting, is they only ever suggest meeting at the last minute. This is also annoying, isn't it? When you try and you kind of want them to have a proper date with you, you want a proper plan, and then unfortunately they just message you at the last minute saying, oh, hey, you free to hang out later? Now, this is tempting as well, because I have definitely been there in my single days in the past, where you might be having a bit of a boring weekend in, maybe catching up on some Downton Abbey, and you get a message from someone, and it's quite tempting, isn't it, to go out on that date? But I would say this: if you really are looking to start something real, you're looking for a real and genuine connection, I would have a strong real dates only policy, which means you don't do hangouts, you don't do last minute drop-bys. Instead, you go for actually having a time and place where you've agreed to meet and doing something that's kind of like a high quality activity together, whether that's going out to a nice Christmas market, going for a bike ride if it's not too cold and rainy. So you want to try and have a real dates only policy where you actually are looking for someone who's making that effort to set time aside for you. So if someone does message you last minute looking for the hangout, I would just simply say, I'm busy doing a Downton binge at the moment, or I'm out with friends, but maybe next week, ? That way you can indicate to someone that, yeah, of course you would be open to meeting them, that's something you would like, but you also show them through your actions that you want a real date. You don't want to do a last minute hangout. So before we go on to our next set of users' questions, let's just do a quick recap of this section. So I want you to remember, everyone, this is a two-way process of matching and not you being judged by the other person. So if dating is feeling stressful at the moment, put yourself back in the driver's seat and remember what you're looking out for on a date. Forget looking for an immediate spark. It might not be a realistic thing for your first dates at the moment. Instead, look for ease of communication, you feel relaxed and you feel respected. You can think particularly as well if you find the other person easy to talk to, and are they making an effort? Okay, so before our next section, let's just answer a few more questions that you have sent in advance. So our first question that I see is from James. And James asks a question that I'm sure lots of you would like to know the answer to, which is, what can I do to improve my chances of a response when contacting someone for the first time? So James, there's going to be two parts to this story. And as I said, if you're someone who you send a lot of messages out, but right now you're not getting the most amount of responses, hopefully the advice I'm about to give is going to help you with that. First of all, we want to look at your profile. We want to make your profile as good as possible. I've done at least one, maybe two live coaching sessions in the past, which are all about how to make your profile really, really good. So if you haven't checked those out already, remember you can watch them on a replay on the Match website. So that could be a good one just to double check that your photos and your written profile are as good as they could be. When it comes to the messaging side of things, my most important point around this really is that you have to be unique. If you send a "Hey, how are you?" or "Hey, how's your weekend going?" message, unfortunately you might get lost in the shuffle of someone's dating inbox. Your message might simply sound too much like all of the other messages they've received lately, and it's going to be really hard for them to tell why they should be paying attention to you. So instead, we want to do a couple of things. We want to make sure your messages are personal, that they show effort and that you've actually read and engaged with someone's profile. This will really be helpful, because then they'll understand that you're not just sending a kind of like cut and paste message to everyone, but instead that there's actually something specific about their profile that you found attractive. The next thing we want to do is phrase this in a way that's fun. So we want to make sure your message is a bit attention grabbing. So let me give you an example. Instead of saying, "Hi, how's your weekend going? I really liked the paragliding picture. Where was that taken?" I want you to take a mental cross through the first part of that message, and let's just jump straight to the exciting bit. So we're going to cross out, "Hey, hi, how are you? How's your weekend going?" And we're just going to go straight to paragliding. That looks like so much fun. I spent most of this evening guessing where that picture was taken. So we go straight to the exciting bit of the content. So pick a unique detail and then jump right into it when you're writing your message. The next question comes from Jennifer, who asks how to know someone is genuine who's looking out for a relationship, or someone who's charming but is out for his own gain. Now, I understand, Jennifer. I feel like all of us have had experiences where we felt let down by someone that we're dating, and we felt like they were awesome one minute and then very, very disappointing the next. I would say, though, that the vast majority of people out there aren't looking to actively deceive anybody else. It's just that they may have different expectations and desires from dating as a whole. So they could just not be looking for the same things as you. And it can be difficult, because often if you have a really sparky first date and you feel a really strong connection, it can be easy to go 1 + 1 = 10 in your mind and think, wow, this is the person I'm destined to be with. So what we really need to do is slow your process of getting to know someone down and have some really clear communication about what you want. So if you date slowly, you're always going to be able to get a much better feedback loop in terms of who is on the same page as you. So this could mean perhaps you focus on daytime dates, perhaps you see people once a week, perhaps you just take the physical intimacy side of things slower as well, until you feel like you really have got to know this person. Then also be open and expressive about what you want. You don't have to be like, I want you to be my boyfriend, but you could say, of course, if I met the right person, yeah, of course I'd like to have a committed relationship with them. So you can really openly share your views on commitment. Now, when you're doing that, you want to listen and see, are they on the same wavelength as you or not? Do they share and agree with what you're saying, or do they kind of change the topic quickly? This is again going to start to give you some feedback as to whether they're on the same page as you. So Jennifer, remember that most people are actually, there's a lot out there, good apples, and in order to figure out what someone's about, you just need to take your time getting to know them and really focus on having clear communication your side, and also really listening to what they say. So if they say they're not in the right headspace for a relationship, even if they start acting like your partner, remember what they said. So we really want to listen to people as well. So the final question from this section is from Owen, who says, I struggle to come across fun when I'm conversing, asking boring questions sometimes, and the conversation can sometimes be stale. How to avoid this? So, with this one, I totally understand that you want to come across as more unique and exciting on your dates. And I would say not all questions are bad. In fact, in my next section coming up, I've got 5 of my favourite questions to ask on dates. But yes, you do want to avoid boring questions, which are usually questions that either have a number or a very logical or a yes/no answer. So things like, so how long have you been working there? Or how long does it take you to get to work? Anything that can be answered with a number is generally a bad question. Questions that you do use should be those that really open up the conversation and give the other person a chance to share stories and talk really openly about themselves. So Owen, I think this next section is actually made for you. So we're going to be talking now about what you talk about on your dates.